on, guys? Welcome to this week's episode of Pickup Sports Talk. I'm Brandon Schiffman.
And I'm Spencer Stein. We're going to follow our football season, lineup, which is just NFL college. But I do really want to dive deeper into Aaron Judge hitting his 60th homer and Pujols trying to become the third player to hit 700 who didn't use steroids. Yep. I'll leave it at that. But let's jump right into NFL. Tough week for our Bears. That might be the angriest I've been in a football game, and that includes the double doink. Because the double doink, I was mad. It was one play, and it was much higher stakes. But I'm a little concerned about our future. So, Brandon, just give me a debrief. Start wherever you want with that game.
Yeah, so we were looking good in the first quarter. There isn't much more to say. We scored in our second drive. Fields ran the ball in. Super exciting. Thought, you know what? Eberflus era, we're here. Who knows what's going to happen? And then as the game went on, I started to look less and less in the present, a little bit more at the stat sheet. I noticed Fields only threw 11 passes, 7 of which were completed. He had late-game interception, which I absolutely hated. And our passing game never really took off. Equanimous St. Brown had 2 receptions for 39 yards. Other than that, nothing very significant. David Montgomery did carry our entire offense. I'm going to say it. Justin Fields, he had a good rushing touchdown. Could have been 2, depending on who you ask, if they're a Bears fan or not. David Montgomery carried our offense. He had 122 yards on 15 carries. That was about it for us. It was kind of upsetting to think about.
So you're starting with the offense, and I want to talk about Fields. He's thrown 28 passes through 2 weeks. Yeah. All 31 other NFL teams have had at least 28 completions through 2 weeks. But I really don't blame Eberflus that much for not giving him opportunities because it's clear the Packers could not stop the run, so he kept going at it. Yep. I think that's good strategy. I do think he should have scored on that play for 3 reasons. First, should not have been the shotgun. Yeah, that was first mistake. Stupid. Second, there was a hole on the right, but I don't blame Fields that much for it. It wasn't the play design. It should have been called touchdown. That's end of story. That would have gotten us back in the game. Running was good. Mooney needs to show up, and Komet's I think sucks. I think we should have taken Jalen Hurts that pick, but I love where we are with Fields. Cool. But what I want to say is that Mooney, I'm starting to think cannot be the receiver one in the future. I think he is a high-end receiver too.
Especially after the season he had last year.
Yeah, as a receiver too, though. We're gonna need a star receiver at some point. Maybe Jordan Addison in the draft, maybe Jackson Smith and Jigbo. Maybe we make a trade. I think that's ideal. But I think Mooney's gonna have to start showing up more. Here's what I want to say, Fields. He started 7 for 8 on his passing. Yeah. And he didn't look horrible. He obviously didn't throw a touchdown. The interception was late. But the real issue is that we had open guys. Equanimous St. Brown, wide open, deep on a play. Fields didn't even look his way. Yeah. He was throwing to checkdowns all day. And he takes way too long with the ball. Yeah. The offensive line's looking amazing. Tevin Jenkins, what everyone was saying about Tevin Jenkins in training camp was completely false. He is great. He's, I think, a future Pro Bowler. Yeah. Borum has not been horrible. Lucas Patrick, when he comes back, will have a solid center.
He was decent even with the QT.
Yeah, and Sam Mustipher can get off the field because he's not a solid center, let's be real. And how about who's the draft pick? No, Whitehair's always good. He's captain, Whitehair. Yep. I'm forgetting his name out of Southern Utah, but the Braxton Jones. Yeah, Braxton Jones. So our O-line solid, and Justin Fields had over 3 seconds to throw on average. 3 seconds, that's unprecedented.
That's double last year.
But the thing is that means, yes, the O-line's doing good, but that means he's taking too long. Yeah. There's some point where it's taking too long. He needs to make his decisions quicker, and he needs to just make them more accurately. Because he can throw the ball accurately, he's just afraid to. That late-game interception, I think, was just panic. I'm starting to worry about Fields a little. I think we can't use the excuse he's not in a position to succeed anymore. People were arguing, he didn't get enough chances to throw the ball. It's because we want to win games. We want to beat Green Bay, and running the ball is what did that. The weapons aren't great, but he has time to throw, and that's all that matters. And he had guys open and just didn't hit them. The defense I want to talk about now. Sure. Jaquan Brisker's great. He's my favorite player on the team.
Really good.
That's about it. He looks fine. Kyler Gordon looked atrocious. Yeah, that was awful. I know you were talking about him being torched. I don't think that's the biggest deal. I think it's that he wasn't hitting tackles at all.
And they were kind of targeting at him, not targeting the penalty.
They were throwing the ball at him.
They were throwing the ball towards Howard and trying to put him on an island.
And
see what he'd do.
Roquan Smith disappointed me. Yeah. He's in a contract year. Play like it. Come on, Roquan.
Dominique Robinson looked very good.
Robinson is one of our only bright spots, but I think that's about it. So Roquan needs to improve his play long term if he wants that contract. I'm starting to think Poles had a good something in his head not giving Roquan that contract. So the big question, though, are you worried about Fields?
Am I worried about Fields? I don't want to say I'm starting to get worried about Fields, but we need to see this play pick up by the end of the season. I mean, this is his big year, and all we heard all offseason was, you guys aren't even ready for this. He's looked so good, the progressions he's made. And there have been times during the preseason, I was blown away by that, by all of his progressions. He He looked very mature on the field. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He's putting the ball in the right places at the right times. I don't know if it was stage fright, Sunday night stage fright, it happens. But whatever we saw on Sunday night, that was not what I was looking to see out of Justin Fields.
Yeah, I don't think it's time to say he's a bust yet. A lot of people are saying he's not the future guy. I think he can be.
Oh, absolutely.
We're just going to see him improve that decision making. I don't think that happens now. And I hate to... All of last year, I said this is going to be the prove-it year for Fields, but I hate to say that there's a chance that he's meh this year, and going into next year, it's once again, can Fields establish himself as a quarterback? I want to mention a few things about Green Bay. First, the Bears, by the way, run defense horrible. That's why we lost this game, in all reality. Yes, we couldn't score. We should have had 17 points. It's that they just ran the ball every time.
The pass rush was good, though.
The pass rush was good. We could not stop the run at all. Aaron Jones had 132 yards, AJ Dillon had 60, and the Packers were able to beat us because they just kept running the ball, and then when we were trying to stop it, Rodgers obviously doesn't miss passes. Here's what I want to say about the Packers. I will not say they're back. Yeah. I said last week I think there's a good chance they blow us out, and everyone's going to be like, well, the last 2 years they started slow and then came back. I don't think that's the case this year. I don't think they're back. I think they're not going to win the division still, even after the Vikings have that sorry Monday night performance. I still got the Vikings in the division. And I think the Packers, I don't want to spoil it, are going to lose to Tampa Bay this week embarrassingly.
Yeah, so I want to say one thing. Although the Packers offensively kind of did what they wanted running-wise, I don't think Aaron Rodgers passing-wise looked all that great. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's still going to be accurate, whatever. I think
he completed like 14 passes in a row or something.
The fact that they don't have receivers, though, is scaring Aaron as much as it's scaring Packers fans and as much as it's making us just a little bit happier knowing that they might not get...
I mean, Sammy Watkins, the guy who had to show up.
Sammy Watkins at 93
I think Rodgers looked just fine. I'm more worried about Brady than Rodgers.
I don't think this is an NFC Championship winning team
considering
what's happened in the past few years.
No, for sure not. But let's move on to a division foe, Eagles-Vikings.
Yep.
Is this more about the Eagles? The Eagles won 24-7, and... which team do you think it's more about? The Vikings kind of overhyping week one and maybe being bad, or do you think the Eagles genuinely could be the favorites out of the NFC?
I think it's more the Eagles, and this is going to be kind of me just biting into other people's what other people have said, but the Eagles look great. I think that Jalen Hurts is genuinely one of the best young quarterbacks in football. Was extremely accurate. Don't let the interception on the stat sheet fool you. That was late game. It was a deflected pass by, I think, Boston Scott maybe. I'm not counting it. It hurt my fantasy score a little bit, but these things happen. Overall, Philly was just moving at will. Hurts really does maximize that offense. I mean, you look at, I'll name some receivers out of big games. Goddard at tight end, Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, AJ Brown.
Quez Watkins had that long touchdown though. I think it's a little skewed.
I mean, true, but he still had 2 receptions.
Yeah.
He had him making plays. I think that overall Philly looks like a well-oiled machine right now. And please let me mention Darius Slay. He went head-to-head with the best receiver in the NFL right now. I'm saying it. The best receiver in the NFL right now, Justin Jefferson. And he won the day. And he won the day in a dominating fashion, pulling off 2 interceptions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I liked Philly going into this year. Yeah. I predicted Hurts and Lamar as my 2 MVP picks, and they're both living up to that. Yeah. But sticking with Philly, their defense is so improved.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with the addition of Gardner Johnson, which seems to be hurting the Saints a lot. Bradbury, too. And their draft picks, I haven't seen much, I don't think, out of their 2 Georgia guys, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, but they're there. Mm-hmm. As you said, Devonta Smith is kind of a big storyline this week because he was their first-round pick a year ago. He's supposed to be their 1. And the fact that he had 7 receptions for 80 yards and he's not even their 1, it's A.J. Brown, plus Goddard led them in yards, plus Quez Watkins had a long touchdown, plus Miles Sanders.
I still hate him.
Is good.
I still hate him.
You still hate him? I was telling you, this system fits for him to do well because that O-line opens everything up. Mm-hmm. Everything is well-oiled in Philly. Mm-hmm. They are true NFC Championship contenders. Right now, they're the best team in the NFC.
They've been hot.
That's why I said they're going into Green Bay. I have them winning. I still think the Rams will establish themselves as the NFC favorites. Yeah. I still might have to take Tampa over them. It's close, but they're top 3 in my eyes. They're above Green Bay for sure for me. Minnesota, what do you think is more indicative of their play, week 1 or week 2?
Week 2. I do. Watching, and that's big. With that being said, Kirk Cousins is so bad in primetime.
Yeah, in primetime.
It is painful. That was painful to watch. I'm not even going to...
Stop the Kirk Cousins hate.
I'm not even going to hold it against him. It was a really bad week for him. But Minnesota still has weapons like it's own business, a good defense. I think that they're a well-coached team as well. I think that the other night was more of a fluke than week 1 was.
I think you're completely wrong. I think week 1 is more of their good week because you said week 2 is more indicative of their play. I think week 1.
No, I meant week.
Oh, you meant week 1.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say that I still have them winning the division. I think Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback in this league. Everyone's hopping on the Kirk Cousins hate train. Way too quick to do that. Why does it mean any more than week 1? He's never been good in primetime, but I just think that's not something we should hold against him that much because
I think it's a factor.
I don't think he's a great quarterback, but I said he'd have a good season because his receivers, and I stand by that his receivers will bring out the good in him. I don't love what I've seen out of Thielen so far. Dalvin Cook is being used how I expected him to be. He's opening up the passing game. They didn't do that enough week 2. But the whole point isn't for Dalvin Cook to torch you and have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns like it was in Mike Zimmer's system. The plan is for him to open up the passing game, and I think I've seen him do that a good amount. The Vikings will be fine. I have them winning their next 3 games, so I still like them a lot. Biggest team everyone's worrying about, Cincinnati Bengals. They lost to the Cowboys 2017, the Cooper Rush Cowboys. I had the Bengals winning a blowout here, and now they're 0-2. Are you worried about them?
I'm not completely worried. I know that's so wrong of me, and it's such not a Brandon thing to do. But to be honest with you, there are some similarities between the Bengals' struggles through the first 2 weeks and the Chiefs of last year, and the Chiefs wound up being just fine. That's not the only thing, but based off of the Bengals have kind of been banged up, haven't been looking great. I think it'll all come back together. Super Bowl or AFC Championship hangover is real. Burrow missed the majority of the offseason with the hernia. I know we keep mentioning that. I think that they'll get back to where they were.
I hate to keep referring to our preseason predictions episode, but I said they'd start slow. I think this is pretty expected. I didn't expect it to be this slow.
Yeah, this is
I think there's still a good chance they bounce back late season. But I definitely think when the AFC is this tough, I could genuinely say long term, I doubt they'll probably get above one of these teams, but I can firmly say I expect the Chiefs, Chargers, Ravens, and Bills all to be better than them. Plus, the Dolphins have a good shot. So they're not in a good position to compete in the AFC. They'll bounce back.
Yep.
They'll bounce back. How about the Cowboys side of things?
Yeah, the Cowboys, I'm surprised they came away with this win. I think overall, as a whole, this is a big thing for them, but I don't think I'm not as high on them this year.
Cooper Rush, I'm telling you, it's not a big worry. Dak looked atrocious week 1. I'm not here to say that start Cooper Rush for the rest of the year. I don't think Cooper Rush is good by any means. But last week I said they need to change temporarily. Dak looked atrocious week 1. Yeah. They put up 3 points with him. He wasn't hitting CeeDee Lamb. He hit Schultz a bit. Cooper Rush brought sparks. Didn't bring a spark to the team, but more of one than Dak.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think Dak, everyone for years, all he talked about was his contract. Maybe it wasn't worth it. What has he done there? I haven't seen a game where Dak Prescott went in there and maybe say he's an MVP contender. He's the reason they won this game. They win with him, not because of him. They're not winning because of Cooper Rush, but the drop off from your backup to your starter when you pay him that much needs to be bigger.
The one thing I always notice about Dak is whenever I see Dak slander, my first reaction is, hey, let's take a step back.
But yeah, me too. When you think about it more deeply.
Statistically, he's great. He's a guy, big numbers, whatever. They don't win the way that they should be with the guy who's making.
They need a more explosive guy. They need a playmaker. I'm telling you. But I think when Gallup comes back, to me, a huge addition. You saw how big of a week Noah Brown had. Imagine what that'd be if Gallup was there too. Yeah. One more thing. Micah Parsons, my preseason defensive player of the year prediction, so good. 4 sacks through 2 weeks. He's been pressuring QBs on 1/3 of his rushes, and he's a linebacker. They transitioned him to a position he only played in high school in defensive end, and he plays both still. He's also the most important defensive player in the league right now.
He's unbelievably versatile.
Monday night, the bloodbath on Monday night. Yeah. Bills 41, Titans 7. All I want to talk about, the Titans are struggling, yes. All I want to talk about, how far ahead the Pack are the Bills and everyone else? Basically my question, if you're putting money on a Super Bowl, someone out of the AFC, I'll leave it at. Bills or the field?
One expression that I heard throughout my youth, leaps and bounds. That is how far ahead the Bills are than the rest of the AFC right now. And it's ridiculous to say with all the talent there. The Bills... Genuinely for the AFC, the Bills might be a minus in betting odds versus the field to win the AFC.
So are you taking the Bills or the field? Is what I'm asking.
I am taking the Bills as of right now.
Yeah.
They have done absolutely nothing to tell me otherwise. They have looked dominant. They've looked well coached. Josh Allen has just looked like a well-oiled machine. And Stephon Diggs might genuinely be a top 2 receiver in the NFL, not just fantasy, in the NFL in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think Josh Allen's right there with Herbert and Mahomes, the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's probably the one. Yeah. Stephon Diggs, top 5 receiver in the league for sure. I was saying
top One the other night.
Preseason, I said top 3 receivers in the league were going to be CD, Diggs, and Jefferson. I'm happy about 2. I think it's going to stay Kupp over CD. But I think he's right there. And their defense will lead. They have the best defense in the league on top of it. I think they had a pick 6. Yep. We talked about this when we were talking about the Dolphins matchup. Everything is working for the Buffalo Bills long term. Firing on all cylinders. I expect it to stay that way.
Yeah,
so let's talk about a more somber occasion. The Niners won 27-7 over the Seahawks. But the story of this game is Trey Lance's injury.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate. I mean, Trey Lance, just because of the nature of him and Justin Fields and how they got drafted, he's always a guy I feel like we're mentioning, and we're not necessarily the nicest about his game. But it's always sad to see an up-and-coming quarterback go down like that. I'm wishing him the best in his recovery. That being said, we saw an old friend of ours, Jimmy G.
Yeah,
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
If I'm a Niners fan, next year's still then going to be Trey Lance's year to try and come out. So I guess I'm unhappy that you're not going to have the score settled on the QB situation after this year.
For another whole year.
Let me tell you this. Their Super Bowl odds should go up. I told you since July when they named Lance the starter that Jimmy G's better for them winning, and I stand by that. Jimmy G's, he's not pretty to watch. He hits receivers. When Kittle comes back, he's going to have a connection. Tebow's role's going to go up. Ayuk will be fine. I am starting to get excited about the Niners' chances to compete. Their defense is looking good. That Week 1 loss against the Bears was ugly. They're putting it in the past. They're putting it behind them, and I can see the Niners making the playoffs, especially with a team like the Cowboys. I don't expect them to make it anymore. I genuinely mean that. After a win, I think I would favor the Niners over the Cowboys to make the playoffs, especially when I think they have equal chances at winning their divisions.
You know, for sure, the Niners are looking to be an interesting team. With that being said, I don't see them having too much success in the playoffs. I just think there's a lot of holes within them as a whole.
I don't know. I think they could make it, especially over the struggling Saints. Let's talk about the Saints. So we're going to talk about some games that had a rare occurrence or something crazy, and then we'll talk about that. What do you think the crazy occurrence was in Bucs Saints?
In my opinion, at least, unless I missed something very major in the game, which is possible.
You did. If you're not going to mention the fight.
It was the Mike Evans versus Marshawn
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I was it was like the culmination of like 5 years worth of a rivalry. Again,
and they've already had a fight.
They've had a lot of fights.
That's the story of this game. He's protecting Brady. Do you think Brady instigated this?
I think partially. I think what happened is Lattimore hit Leonard Fournette, then got up in Brady's face, and Evans just hit him from behind. But with that being said, after the game, I did see a video of Brady yelling at Evans. And I didn't necessarily love that. Yes, it's annoying that your teammate went out and got ejected and
suspended.
But if someone's defending you, unless it's a very weird occurrence, I wouldn't necessarily. My first instinct wouldn't be to like yell at them in the locker room in front of the press.
Who cares? Strategic move of Tom Brady. He's putting a spark under his team. It was 3-3 at the time, maybe 3-0. That game was horribly boring. Yeah. Not fun to watch at all. He put a spark in that team. He made that game exciting. And he made it good. Next play or a few plays later, went deep, got a touchdown. It was after Scotty Miller drop was when the fight was, and Jameis didn't look good. They put up 10. He got impatient. That's the thing. This Saints offense, Drew Brees is a top 5-10 quarterback in my eyes. Yep. He's a Hall of Famer because he was able to just keep going short passes and kill you with kill you softly and slowly. It was a short pass. He couldn't throw the ball very far towards the end of his career, and he's still a Pro Bowler. And that's why he was able to throw for 5,000 yards a season, the most in NFL history. It's why, for a point, he had the most yards in NFL history. It's because he's able to do that, and Jameis can't. Jameis had obvious checkdowns late in that game and got impatient, bored, and threw it down the field. And that is why the Saints team will not win. I'm saying it now. This Saints team is not sustainable because Jameis he's too bored. Literally. You rarely see this. To just keep throwing the check down and slowly win the games. That's a big issue. Their defense is fine. Trading C.J. Gardner-Johnson was not a good move at all. So that's where I really see the Saints standing. The Bucs, I still think Brady's play is starting to decline. He's not falling off that cliff, but the fact people saying that he's going to be as good as he was in the past is crazy. I don't think they will be.
Yeah, no, I think that as a team that I was very high on in preseason, it's hard to see the Saints play like that. It was just, like you said, it's a very boring game. I think it was 3-3 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I want to see more out of Jameis. I think that'll come with some time. Also, Kamara being out does not help with the short game at all. And
they're not beating Tampa the next time they play them, and they're not winning a playoff game. I'll say it now.
Some.
The craziest game of the week, perhaps, Cardinals-Raiders, overtime, ended in a scoop and score, including Kyler Murray had a 2-point conversion, ascended into OT with running in the pocket for 20 seconds. Bryn, any quick takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just disappointed overall in the Raiders. I thought that this year they were going to be a team with tremendous upside. Although I still think that's a possibility. It hasn't looked pretty for them at all this year. I mean, they're 0-2 in the hardest division in football, but still, you can't be losing to the Cardinals. Like, literally, I think I texted you in, like, the second quarter, and, like, you might remember this. I was like, Kyler is so weak. Yeah. Like, Just it didn't look like he could do anything right. And Vegas, if they want to be a team that wins the AFC Championship, which I know they are, they need to take advantage of moments like that.
I like this more about Arizona than them. They showed comeback. They needed this win to keep themselves in like the conversation for being a contender. Kyler put the team on his back and did that. They were short at receiver. DeAndre Hopkins will be coming back sooner than later, and also Rondale Moore. Yep. But I think the Cardinals show that they can still fight for a playoff spot, and the Raiders need to start getting wins. They've fallen behind. Renfro choked so bad with that fumble. Devontae Adams was not there enough, only having 12 yards. Yeah. The Raiders should pick up the play. How about the onside kick game? The Jets. Yeah. The Jets beat the Browns. I mean, I didn't expect either of these teams to compete, so I guess it's not that crazy. Yeah. But the Jets are showing some life in them, and Garrett Wilson's the story of this game.
Garrett Wilson's an absolute stud. I'm just happy for the Jets as a whole. The Browns, it's just a classic Cleveland Browns situation. I feel like they can't do anything right. That's all I'm going to say about it. Really.
I mean, they were in that game. They're running the ball fine. I think they have a good chance of picking up some wins this year. But this is more about the Jets. Yeah, they stuck with the game, which we haven't seen out of them. Flacco did. Yeah. Garrett Wilson went absolutely crazy, putting up 102 yards on 8 receptions and 2 touchdowns. And neither of these teams are much to worry about, but I just kind of wanted to emphasize how crazy that game was. Sure. And another blowout. Yep. Unexpected. Colts,
super unexpected.
0 points against the Jaguars.
Yeah, the Colts are embarrassing because you and I are both high on them. You were a little bit higher on them than me, but I admit we all have our things we get wrong. You were very high on the Colts. I was somewhat high on the Colts. That can't be happening. If you really want to be a team that excels in an already talented AFC, in the division the Colts are in, you need to win every divisional game by a landslide.
You don't need to win every divisional game. You're not winning 6.
Winning that game.
They should not be going 6-0. I think they should beat Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's not a sorry team. So this is what I want to transition to. Who should win that division then?
In my eyes, I still think the Colts should be winning it, but starting 0-2 is very, very upsetting.
I mean, they're only a game back of Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's the second best team there. I think Tennessee's, whatever's going on there, it's not good. I think Houston's the worst team in that division. It's got to be the Colts still, but they need to improve their play. Yep. Yes, Pittman was out. JT still needs to be more. Their offensive line, there's this perception they're amazing. They're not. Yeah. They're getting a little weaker. They allowed a lot of pass rush that game, and their defense was mid. Yeah. I think Shaq Leonard was out that game. If he was playing, he was weak, so that needs to turn around. How about Chiefs-Chargers Thursday night? I told you the Chiefs. I'm telling you, they still should be favored to win this division.
Chiefs are still here. I think that this was a great game. We saw one of the young stars against. It's weird calling Mahomes a veteran, but he's been in the league for 6-7 years now. I think head-to-head, this is one of my favorite matchups to watch just live because I just love watching these two go at it. But yeah, Herbert in the end had a pretty good game. So did Mahomes. Obviously had a really good game as well. They wound up winning. Herbert was playing on some cracked ribs.
I love the toughness I saw out of him. Great for my fantasy team there. He kept getting points. It was without Keenan Allen.
Without Keenan Allen, but still, Mike Williams had a Mike Williams week.
Yeah.
Not much more needs to be said.
The Chiefs are good. They're off. The reason I said losing Tyreek Hill's the biggest deal, but that offensive line is crucial. But I want to talk about the Chargers' offensive line. They don't have a weakness anywhere on that. No, Corey Linsley's the best center in football. Mm-hmm. Zion Johnson is their first-round pick. Was an utter really stud. Good. Everything is. They have, I think, Rashawn Slater still. Yep. Everything is going the Chargers' way right now. They still have talent on all cylinders. I put Chargers and Chiefs 2 and 3 in the AFC.
Yep, and it's close for sure.
And I just want to toot my own horn a bit for saying the Chiefs would win. I got that Dolphins win. I was very happy with my predictions last week. I hope to keep that going. We'll get those at the end of the episode. Brandon, quick run through the rest of the games. New York Football Giants are 2-0. They haven't started 2-0 since 2016. That year they made the playoffs. That's not going to happen this year. But I will say the Panthers are really struggling. Matt Rule's on the hot seat. Baker's on the hot seat.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game. Lions got their first win. They won 36-27 against the Commanders. They looked like a high-powered offense. Aiden Hutchinson, absolute stud. Early favorite for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's why I have my money on right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Patriots picked up winning against Steelers 1. I predicted wrong, and these quarterbacks are both atrocious. Mac Jones is no good. I'm still going to say I'd rather have Fields than him. I'd rather have T-Law than him for sure. And I don't know about Lance after the injury, but neither team looked good. The Steelers disappointed me not being able to put more points on the board with Trubisky, but I think they can be in for a bounce-back week.
Yeah, for sure. Next game, Rams-Falcons. It should not have been this close. A-Rob got his first touchdown, which was good. Cup had 2. Rams look good. It's just the defense seemed to be giving the Falcons a little bit.
Hey, the Falcons are going to play hard every game. I think I predicted this one to be close, and I'm not faulting the Rams too much, but they are going to need to pick up their play. Just want to mention, Cooper Kupp is still the best receiver in football. Refer to our video last year about that. You don't think it's Adams anymore?
I got you
there. Broncos 16, Texans 9. kept it close. Broncos look atrocious. They need to get better. The Texans, once again, another team's going to fight every week. But Russell Wilson's play needs to get up. I know Judy went out, but everything needs to kind of turn around in Denver if they want to compete.
Yeah, for sure. Let's switch to college football if you don't mind. I'm just super excited to get right into it. Do you want to start this one?
Yeah, I want to start this. The Wake Forest game.
Yep.
Not one a lot of people paid attention to. They won by 1 point to Liberty. I want to start this shout out to Demario Douglas. I didn't see anyone in the media talking about him. He's a Liberty receiver. Was their whole offense. Tons of catches. He had the touchdown that gave him an opportunity to go for 2 to win the game. They did miss that. But Demario Douglas, draft prospect you want to watch. Now let's get into the real games.
Yep.
Arkansas, yuck.
Yeah, that was
against
game.
Missouri State? Southern Missouri State barely won. Notre Dame got their first win against Cal, which we're discounting Notre Dame. I guess we're glad they got their first win. They're not competing at all. But Arkansas, are you worried about?
I'm not completely worried about Arkansas, and you'll see that later in some of my predictions. I still think they have a ton of talent. They're led by one of my favorite quarterbacks. You've convinced me on that.
KJ Jefferson looked bad.
I'm very happy about them. Raheem Sanders, too. He's an absolute stud.
Yeah.
He looked good for them, even when they weren't looking too great as a team.
Yeah, I think those are two just quick teams we had to mention that got away. Let's get to the big games. Penn State went into Alabama against Auburn. No, I know it's in Alabama. And they beat them 41-12.
Who predicted it?
You, good.
Okay,
what do you have to say about this game?
Penn State looked good. That defense looks good. Overall, offensively, they were firing on all cylinders. I like watching Penn State. I don't know. I'm kind of a big Sean Clifford guy. Noah Singleton, I liked it. I think he was there last year, right? Yeah. I've been super high on him over time. 2 touchdowns. That was a big game out of him. I
hate to say it after they put up 41 points in the SEC, but I still don't trust Clifford or Drew Aller for that matter. I don't know what quarterback they'll go with. Mm-hmm. This is more indicative of Auburn. I didn't expect their quarterbacks to be big. I thought they'd win this game behind some late stops or late mistakes by Clifford and Tank Bigsby. Yep. Tank Bigsby didn't do much. I mean, he's been their running back. I think it's only been 2 or 3 years, but when I think of Auburn's running back, I think of him. Yep. And he only put up 39 yards. Obviously, though, TJ Finley got pulled and looked atrocious, and Ashford didn't look great either, so Auburn's definitely in the trenches. Washington 39, Michigan State 28. If we're talking about predicting things right, Michael Penix, still good. At Indiana, he was always injured, but he was good when he wasn't. If he could stay healthy, this Washington team can definitely compete in the Pac-12 right there with Oregon, I think. Yeah. For 3 or 4. And
Jalen Polk from Washington had an absolutely monstrous game. I'm pretty sure he had 3 touchdowns. That was wild, but yeah.
And don't get it twisted. This was a blowout. Yeah, I know they won by 11, but Michigan State got that late, I guess, teaser cover.
Yeah, they had 14 points late. But yeah, no, Washington did the majority of their damage in the first half.
And I want to say, last week you were saying Thorne's one of the worst quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Yeah. I disagree. I think he's average. I think he looked fine. I mean, didn't make big plays, but I think saying Michigan State has a horrible QB situation is not okay.
I think the quarterback situation
I think it's more their defense didn't do anything, and the point is that he's a system QB. Yeah. Their whole offense last year was Kenneth Walker, and they lost him. That's what's going wrong there. Yeah. Texas A&M 17, Miami 9. Yeah. Miami, that's a bad loss, I think.
That is a bad loss, especially after
I don't think Texas A&M's a bad team, and it was on the road.
They've getting a lot of bad press.
I mean, if Texas A&M beat App State, we wouldn't be expecting them to win that game, but I just think it's that to establish themselves in that top tier of teams, got to score more than 9. Yeah. And their receivers are bad. Yeah. Nothing looked good out of Miami's receivers at all. Van Dyke was mad, but he didn't have much help. Yeah. And their defense was fine. They should recruit good on defense in the coming years. Texas A&M didn't show me much, but I really think Miami, this was a good prove-it game, a good opportunity, and they squandered it.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree. Let's get to the other game I predicted correctly, not to toot my own horn. Oregon beating BYU 41-20. Spencer, can I get your thoughts on that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, Oregon is the team we thought they would be before the season. That Georgia game was an anomaly, and I'm not saying Oregon played worse. I just think Georgia's that good. Yeah. Their defense finally showed up, and Bo Nix put up 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Yeah. First Oregon QB to do that since, guess who?
I'm not even sure.
Mariota. Come on now. So, Oregon, I'd say they're back in position to fight in the Pac-12 right there with Washington and maybe Wazoo.
Yeah, maybe. I know you're high on them for sure. Let's move on to some predictions. I always analyze games, but it's time for the predictions. You want to dive right in?
Yeah, we're going to start with my Hogs. Now, listen, they didn't look good by any means. Yeah. Preseason, I said they were going to lose this game to Texas A&M and then beat Bama. Mm-hmm. Due to Texas A&M's poor play, Arkansas is going to have a bounce-back week fueled by Sam Pittman. Their head coach is going to fuel a fire under them. They're going to win in College Station. And I have to stick with my prediction that next week they're beating Bama because I think Bama will pick up a loss at some point. Why not in Fayetteville? It's one of the hardest places to play. If Arkansas can pull this off and beat TAMU and Bama next week, they are going to be a top 4 team in the country. I don't love what I saw out of them, and I'm not confident in them. But I just think looking at those matchups in a vacuum, I like them in both those games. So I really really like what the Hogs can do in the next 2 weeks. I think this is a big prove-it week for KJ Jefferson. They're going to get it done in College Station.
For the sake of disagreement, I'm going to go with A&M. I mean, I'm not 110% confident in this game. I think it could really go either way. Both teams have showed highs and lows. I just happen to want to disagree with you for this one, and that's why I'm going to take
I feel like
A&M.
you want to hop on the Arkansas bandwagon that kind of started getting the train moving with here in Chicago. I haven't seen many Arkansas fans.
It was a while ago. I mean, I'm excited to see what A&M brings to the table for this game. I genuinely think this could go either way, though.
Yeah, for sure. College game days at Florida at Tennessee. Who do you like here?
I actually like Tennessee here. I think Hendon Hooker is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Completely underrated. This is a big matchup, though. I think Florida presents a threat. You saw what they did to Utah. But Florida, they're a high ceiling, low floor team.
I mean, I'm just going to talk about it. Talked about with these teams last week. Florida's high ceiling, low floor. Hendon Hooker, I said last week, underrated guy in the nation. I thought looking at this matchup, he might garner some needed attention. To say he's like one of the best QBs in the nation, I think is a little overhyping him. But I do have Tennessee here because I think Florida looked horrible against USF last week, and I don't think they're hitting this ceiling on the road in Knoxville.
Yeah, it'd be tough for them. I want to move on to the Wisconsin-Ohio State game.
I know you wanted to pick that upset.
I was thinking about it, but then I was like, you know what? Let me be realistic here. It's not gonna be like that. I'm gonna take Ohio State in this one. I think that this could potentially be a big week for. I think it's gonna be a big week for Ohio State. Obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's healthy. I believe. I think he's gonna have a big week. One guy to look out for, Braylon Allen. I think 2 touchdown week for him.
Hell no. Ohio State 59-3. Just like that Big Ten championship game where Cardale Jones torched the Badgers. That's gonna happen again. I don't know if it's gonna be that big, but Wisco's looked bad. They have no offense. Ohio State's defense has looked good, even though their offense looked meh. I think Smith-Njigba coming off injuries, finally going to have his big week. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to continue going. And the thing is that Ohio State's route running and their scheme on offense, led by Ryan Day, is so hard to stop. I think they're going to go right at Wisconsin this week and win that game. Clemson at Wake Forest. And I'm so tempted to pick Wake Forest. They looked good, decent last week, and Clemson's looked bad. I think Clemson will win a tight one.
I actually am going to take the upset here and take Wake Forest. I'll break that down a little bit more later.
Oregon at Washington State. Who you got?
I'm going to take Oregon. I bet on the Ducks last week. It paid off. I'm doubling down. I'm going to bet on the Ducks again this week. Even though we saw some good stuff again out of Washington State against Wisconsin.
I mean, we're supposed to give an upset pick later, but I can go something else. This is one of my upsets, though. Yep. Washington State's 3-0. They should be ranked. They're going to get themselves ranked here. They're at home. And I think Oregon, we're going to see a bad week from Bo Nix again. I'm picking the Cougs at home.
Perfect. I'm going to give a betting lock. I want you to give a betting lock, and then we're going to go into our upset picks. My betting lock for Michigan State plus 2.5 against Minnesota. When I saw this line, I did a double take. I didn't fully understand why Michigan State is getting points at home, but you know what? I'm not going to complain. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to go with them.
You know, USC I've been hating on all year. And although I still don't think I'm putting them to make the playoff, because I think Utah goes undefeated from here on out, I think they're set up very well, because they can afford a Pac-12 loss and make the playoff so long as they win the Pac-12 championship game. So I think they're going to cover this week at Oregon State is what I'm getting to. 6.5.
All right, I'm going to get into my upset real quick. Like I said earlier, it's Wake over Clemson. I think this could legitimately happen. I'm not as high on Clemson as most people. I think DJ has kind of a mistakeful game. Maybe 2 picks. Who knows?
I'm going to go with Texas Tech over Texas at home. Now, Texas Tech has not looked good. They shouldn't have beaten Houston in that game. I feel bad for Dana Holgorsen. They lost last week to NC State. But I think Texas has looked not great since the Bama game. They're overhyped. They're on the road. I'm going with Texas Tech.
Well, also because Hudson Card's their starting quarterback.
He's not bad. I mean, he didn't look much worse than Ewers in the Bama game. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, Ewers just brings a different.
We're gonna break down the home run race a little more in depth here.
Yep.
Eric, what's a bigger deal? First off, you think Judge hitting 60 or Pujols? If he could get, do you think Pujols gets 700?
I'm rooting for him. So with that being said, I think I'm gonna take Pujols just on the magnitude that it's 700 home runs, and he's one of the first guys to do it that hasn't been caught for steroids.
I'll go devil's advocate here. Roger Maris's record, arguably, has been the biggest bar set in baseball since it happened. I know Babe Ruth is long-term. He's not breaking that record. He's just hitting 700. Everyone since 62 or whenever, it's been the big number. Roger Maris, 61 home runs, AL leader. I think breaking that and being the face of the guy who has the most home runs in a season, not counting your Bonds, McGuire's, Sosa's, I think that's a bigger name than being the third.
The fact that it was done during the steroid era, that kind of discredits Judge.
I mean, same with the 700. I mean, Bonds hit 7. Bonds Bonds has the most ever.
It's wild that Bonds has just been completely erased from the baseball history books.
Yeah, that is. And another baseball storyline I want to get to. The Los Angeles Angels, not a big development. They missed the playoffs, but looking into it in-depthly, they have 2 MVP winners on their team. They pay all that money. They're selling the team now, thankfully. And Ohtani and Trout have not won a playoff game. Can't be happening. We've talked about it a million times. Things need to change in Anaheim. Ohtani, get out. Please, get out. Help baseball. Brandon, let's do this. Let's update our World Series predictions. I don't know if we've given them since preseason.
Yeah, so my preseason pick, if you don't know, I haven't always been a baseball guy. It's kind of a newer thing for me. I picked the Dodgers over the Blue Jays just on the basis that both of my teams are still relatively in the picture. I'm going to stick with it. Dodgers over Blue Jays. World Series pick.
Blue Jays are not making the World Series. They have no shot.
I'm just proud of myself.
I'm so confident in the Astros. I mean, I could say the same thing about the Rays making it out, but realistically, it's going to be the Astros. They're the best team in the AL. They're the most consistent. I don't see it being the Yankees any shot. And the White Sox are going to miss the playoffs. The Guardians won't do it. It's the Astros. And the Dodgers should be the favorites. I'm sticking with my Mets. Stick with my preseason predictions. The trend here, if Scherzer and DeGrom can hold it down, that should be some automatic wins.
Yep. They're definitely going to be scary. All right, perfect. Let's move on to our NFL Week 3 predictions real quick.
Let's keep this fast. We're running late here.
Yeah, I'll rapid fire you too. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Steelers vs. Browns. Give me your pick.
I'm taking the Browns. I think both teams can win this game, but I think the Brown in a low-scoring one, the Browns running backs win it for them.
Yeah, this under is hitting for sure. I'm actually going to take the Steelers here in an upset pick by a field goal. Next game, you want to predict Bears real quick? Or
no, last.
Leave it for the end? Okay, perfect. Raiders versus Titans. Who do you got?
I got the Raiders for sure picking up their first win. I like the Raiders -2 here. I think the Titans are atrocious, and the Raiders know the urgency is there for a win.
Raiders are getting their first win here. Devontae Adams, 2-touchdown game. Heard it here first. Chiefs-Colts.
Chiefs.
You're taking the Chiefs? I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. I haven't liked the Colts recently.
I think the Colts have a shot, though, if they could come back here, but I think the Chiefs are the better team.
Bills-Dolphins. This one's shaping up to be interesting. Buffalo -6.5. I like that line a lot. Very high scoring despite how good Buffalo's defense is.
What side of the line do you like?
I like Buffalo -6.
I don't know. I think Miami keeps this one close, and I'm not overhyping Miami. I just don't think it's realistic. Buffalo plays like they did in all their first 8 quarters, every quarter of this game, so I think it stays closer. NFC North Division matchup, Lions at Vikings.
I personally like the Vikings here, maybe by 3 points. I think that the Lions could potentially cover the 6.
I don't know. I think the Vikings can cover. I have them winning by 1 touchdown. Ravens at Pats.
I'm going to take the Ravens here by 10. I don't like what I've seen for the Pats at all this year.
This is going to be finally the Ravens defense is going to show up. They're going to hold Mac Jones. They're going to force 2 interceptions out there, and they're going to win this one behind a huge game out of Lamar.
Mm-hmm. Bengals-Jets. This one's interesting. Do you think the Bengals pick up the first one?
Hell yeah. The Jets will not do like they did last week. And the Bengals, they won't look amazing. They'll look better, though.
I think the Bengals win this one by 13, actually, specifically 13. Eagles-Commanders. This is interdivision. This has potential implications if the Eagles want to make a run. Who do you got?
Once again, I like the Commanders' cover. I think the Eagles, as good as they are, aren't going to blow every team out, but I still think the Eagles find a way to win it on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles by a touchdown, so that would mean they cover. Next, another interdivisional game, Saints-Panthers. I have the Saints by a lot more than 3. I have the Saints by at least a touchdown.
Nope. I think the Panthers are bad, so I think they will have trouble scoring. I think the Saints defense will play like they did last week, or at least in the first few quarters. But I think the Saints offense struggles again. I don't think they're finding their way immediately. I don't think it's going to be a snap of the fingers and Olave starts not fumbling and Jameis Winston starts being patient.
Mm-hmm. Next game, Chargers-Jaguars. This is just a random matchup for real. I'm personally going to take the Chargers here. It's -7. I'm probably going to take them by 10.
I think Jaguars, once again, this is going to be a close week. I think the Jaguars are a little underrated, but yes, Chargers pull away late and win that one.
Next, NFC West matchup, Rams-Cardinals. I'm personally taking the Rams. They're just a more talented team.
I don't know. I think the way the Rams have been playing, the Cardinals have a fighter's chance, but I will say the Cardinals looked bad except for in the last few minutes last week, so I will take the Rams.
Perfect. Now let's get to the 2 worst teams in the league. Falcons, Seahawks. Will the Falcons pick up the first
Yes,
win?
they will.
Okay.
I think the Falcons show more fight than Seattle, especially after last week Seattle looked bad. I think they pick up a win on the road here behind Pitts' first touchdown.
I was actually going to take that as well. I think that this is going to be an interesting game to watch just because both teams are horrible. Next one, Packers, Buccaneers.
Go ahead. You first.
You got it?
No, you first.
Okay, fine. I'm personally going to take the Buccaneers here. I haven't loved what I've seen from Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think that run offense is going to last.
The Packers will not score 13 points in this game. Wow. The Buccaneers definitely win this. I don't like the Bucs this year, but I dislike the Packers even more. Mm-hmm. Niners at Broncos, Sunday Night Football. Jimmy G's back.
I'm going to have to take the Broncos here. I really do. I think the Broncos win this game by 3. I think Russell Wilson has a big week.
Give me San Fran. The Broncos have looked worse. I think Jimmy G helps this team win. I think we finally see their offense come alive. I'm very confident in this pick in the Niners, but I hope that doesn't backfire. Mm-hmm. Monday night, 2 bummy teams, Cowboys at Giants.
Giants are going to get their first loss. Cowboys go in by 3.
Yep.
It's an upset pick somehow.
Cowboys aren't going to they'll look as good as they did last week, which wasn't even very good. The Bengals just looked worse. But the Giants are going to crumble. This is the start of a big losing streak, and the Bears are going to continue that by beating them in week 4. Week 3, though, are we going to beat Houston?
Absolutely, we are going to beat Houston. We need that win.
I think it's going to be low scoring. I think they keep it close. I got the Bears here. No, that's not even biased. I think the Bears win this week. We beat the Giants. And if we're looking at a 3-1 start, that's optimistic. But once again, all I care about is Fields' play. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry this ran a bit long. We'll be back at you next week, and check out our fantasy clips.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out our clips.